Now, what people are confused about, it's metabolism and aging, because when we eat extra calories and we put 10 pounds or 20 pounds or 30 pounds of extra fat on the body, let's say you have 30 pounds of extra fat on the body. You didn't eat 30 pounds of extra calories. You ate 60 pounds of extra calories to put 30 pounds of fat on the body. Most Americans, they always say half of what you eat feeds our needs and the other half feeds the needs of our doctors. And what I'm saying is that when you eat excess calories more than your body needs, half of it goes to speeding up the metabolic rate, because excess calories raise metabolism. Because the body doesn't want to put it all on as fat. The body resists putting it on as fat because it knows how dangerous it is to put fat on the body and to impact all the extra weight to the human body so it can't function. So what it does to resist fat, it tries to speed up raise the thyroid activity, raise body temperature, raise the respiratory quotient, the calories burned through breathing. It does whatever it can, sets into motion a series of biological events. It tries to burn off the extra calories you're eating without putting on weight. So half of that but when you do that, you're making a pact with the devil, because you're aging your stem cells, your telomeres, you're aging your body quicker. Your metabolic fire is the rate at which you age. Well, most Americans are thinking it's good to speed up the metabolic rate so they can eat more food and not get fat. We know that's the formula for a shortened lifespan. What we really want to do is slow down our metabolic rate so we can eat less food and not get too thin. I want to be able to eat less calories, keep my body fat really low, but still keep this degree of muscle structure and function so I can be strong and athletically fit as I age and not get too thin. I don't want to have to do that with eating excess amounts of food. I want to be able to eat a normal, reasonable amount of food, not be full at every meal, keep my calories relatively low, and still maintain all this muscle mass and fitness. That's the goal, to tweak our calories to the exact fine point for each individual person, to maintain the perfect body fat and muscle density, and use and exercise to maintain strength and stamina and agility, right? We want to do different types of exercise, not just one type. Exercise the whole body and all the muscle groups, and with types of exercise that lead for some stamina and coordination and agility and strength too. These are the things that maximize human lifespan. So I'm saying right now is that when you're overweight, you've eaten way too many calories, because most of those calories didn't even go to be putting fat on your body. Most of those calories went to speeding up your metabolism and aging you. So the extra calories you ate aged you and brought you closer to death. And the reflecting of that are the extra body weight you put on. So you've eaten double the calories, that you've eaten way over double the calories your body required when you're overweight. So there's no such thing as a healthy overweight people. I could say that, and because we're not eating food, we're eating drugs, because these drugs, white flour, is the same as sugar, which is not a food. It's a drug. Foods, of course, have some ability to give the body sustenance and nourishment. These aren't giving the body sustenance and nourishment. They're stripping the body's nutrient reserves, because they're creating more of a drain on the utilization of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals. They're draining the body's reserves, and without supplying those substances in the metabolism of those food for energy. So they drain the body and they cause damage to the brain at the same time. So here I'm saying for every 100 calories increase in metabolic rate from extra calories, the risk of death increases by about 25%. So you're in control of your lifespan by what you eat and how much you eat. But you can't control what you eat, and you can't control how much you eat if you eat the wrong foods, because then your brain gets taken over by these alien creatures from another planet, right? You're not you anymore. You're some alien, some facsimile of you, because you've damaged your brain due to eating fast food. Fast foods are things that are absorbed and digested rapidly, and they have synthetic ingredients, and they contain chemicals, and they're nutritionally barren. They're highly flavored. They usually contain oil, sugar, and salt. And particularly when you mix together, sugar with oil and white flour and salt, then it becomes so more addicting. Like if I put a bowl of sugar on the table, you wouldn't be that addicted to come over there with a spoon for breakfast and be sucking in the sugar right into your mouth for breakfast and overeating on just plain sugar, or just sucking sugar cubes. But if I can mix it with flour, bake it into a bread or a cake, put some oil in there too, a little salt in there as well, then we're going to really have an appetite stimulating drug. And that's what most fast foods are and commercial baked goods are. They're appetite stimulating drugs, and they change and they make you unable to control your caloric driver in your brain. So we're talking about SF means sugar and flour. And when I talk about flour, I mostly refer to white flour. Even whole wheat flour is probably not such a good food to eat because it's not because it's ground so fine like pastry flour, and it's still overly glycemic. If you took a wheat berry or other grains and you sprouted them, or you at least ground them, if you cook them in water as whole grains, or you at least sprouted or ground them up into a coarse grind and made them into some type of bread, maybe like those Ezekiel breads that are made out of sprouted grains. But most breads are so high glycemic that even when they're whole wheat flour, they're not an ideal food. They're still too highly glycemic. But white flour, of course, and rice flours and sugar and honey and maple syrup really aren't foods. They can't sustain life, and they're really disease-causing foods. They're anti-nutrients because they utilize nutrients in the body and the body's nutrient reserves, and it raises the glucose in the bloodstream, not just right after you ate the meal, but it stays elevated for hours after the meal. And because of so much glucose enters the bloodstream, now the body has to produce excess amounts of insulin, and insulin is the primary fat storage hormone that drives the glucose out of the blood into the fat cells. And I'm saying here, because so much of these calories rush into the bloodstream so fast, and the body can only use 40, 50 calories an hour at rest to burn from its basal metabolic needs. And then you could burn with exercise if you were exercising while you were eating or something. But basically, your body doesn't burn that many calories, so it has to store it as fat. And it can't even store it as glycogen and use it later for energy, because if it's coming in as sugar and oil, there's so many calories rushed into the bloodstream, the body revs up fat storage hormones and starts storing tissues, storing these calories as fat at the same time it's refilling its glycogen reserves. So sugar and flour, of course, accelerate death and lead to nutritional starvation, an increased amount of reactive oxygen species, and advanced glycation end products build up in the body, accelerating aging and death. And of course, that's why the diabetics become blind or lose kidney function or have their legs amputated, because the buildup of these reactive oxygen species and advanced glycation end products, the buildup in every person that's overweight to a lesser degree and who eats these foods, right? So when Americans are on the cake diet, right, these calories get shunted where you have intramyocellular lipids, that means fat around the muscles. The muscles gets marbled with fat, leading to muscle weakness, right? So you're having maybe a good food for an alien, and this is a stupid joke, so I'm not going to go there. But in any case, it's like fattening up the veal and making the meat full of fat, so we can eat that food and feel it's a mixture of fat and meat to make it taste better. And we're fattening up ourselves in the same way. Most humans don't have any muscle density or toughness. Their muscles are mixed with fat because they're eating all these processed carbohydrates. The cake diet, I call the American diet the cake diet, what people have for breakfast, like cold breakfast cereals, that's cake. Pasta, that's cake. I mean, muffins are cake without the icing on top. Waffles are fried cake, and pancakes are cake that's fried, and then you put sugar on top of the cake. It's like you put syrup on top of the cake. It's ridiculous what people are doing, right? And then they have a burger or some kind of more white flour cake and meat, and then cake and cheese and pizza. So it's just unbelievable what people put in their bodies. Though there's no ability to think and rationalize about they are what they eat, and your life and your lifespan and your future is dependent by what you put in your mouth. I'm saying every day counts. What you eat every day determines your ultimate health future. Every mouthful counts, right? Every meal counts. Every mouthful counts. You're making a choice to self-destruct or to lead to great health and reach your human potential.